The difference between a wise person and a fool is not the absence of emotions, but the ability to manage them. Think about the last time you let your emotions take over. Maybe it was an argument with a loved one, a frustrating moment at work, or an unexpected setback that sent you spiraling. We've all been there, saying things we regret, making impulsive decisions, or letting negativity dictate our actions. But what if I told you that you have the power to control your emotions, rather than letting them control you? Emotional mastery is not about ignoring your feelings or suppressing your emotions. It's about understanding them, channeling them, and using them as a tool for growth. Whether it's handling stress, making better decisions, or strengthening your relationships, controlling your emotions is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. The good news? Emotional control is a skill, one that you can learn, practice, and perfect. And when you do, your life transforms. You become calmer, more focused, and more resilient in the face of challenges. Today, I'm going to share with you the key principles of emotional mastery, how to manage your feelings, stay composed under pressure, and turn your emotions into a source of strength. Stay with me for the next few minutes as I take you through the step-by-step process of controlling your emotions and unlocking your full potential. Let's dive in. Number 1, the seriousness of emotional control. Control your emotions, or they will control you. This statement holds more truth than most people realize. Emotions are powerful. They can build relationships, create opportunities, and drive success. But if left unchecked, they can also ruin reputations, destroy relationships, and lead to impulsive decisions that bring regret. Emotional control is not just a skill, it's a necessity for anyone who wants to thrive in life. Why is emotional control so serious? Because emotions dictate the quality of our lives. Think about it. When you're overwhelmed with anger, sadness, or frustration, it clouds your judgment. You say things you don't mean, make reckless choices, or retreat into self-doubt. On the other hand, when you learn to manage your emotions, you can respond rather than react. This simple shift can change everything: your career, your personal life, and your overall happiness. The biggest mistake people make is believing that emotions should be ignored or suppressed. That's not control, it's avoidance. Suppressed emotions have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them, often in destructive ways. True emotional mastery comes from understanding what you feel, why you feel it, and how to process it in a healthy, constructive manner. It's about channeling your emotions into something useful rather than letting them dictate your actions. Consider highly successful people, leaders, athletes, and entrepreneurs. What separates them from the rest? It's not just talent or intelligence. It's their ability to stay composed under pressure. They have the same emotions as everyone else, but they don't let their emotions control their decisions. A great leader doesn't lash out in frustration. A champion athlete doesn't let fear of failure stop them. A thriving entrepreneur doesn't let self-doubt prevent them from taking risks. They have learned the art of emotional discipline. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional control is its impact on relationships. Whether it's in business, friendships, or romantic relationships, the way you handle your emotions affects how others perceive you. If you're quick to anger, people will walk on eggshells around you. If you're overly sensitive, you might take harmless comments as personal attacks. If you constantly let fear hold you back, you may miss out on valuable opportunities. The ability to regulate your emotions makes you not only more likable, but also more trustworthy and reliable. So how do you start taking control of your emotions? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to your triggers. What situations make you angry, insecure, or anxious? Once you recognize your emotional patterns, you can work on changing your response. The second step is practice. Controlling emotions is like building a muscle. It takes time and effort. Meditation, deep breathing, and reframing negative thoughts are just a few techniques that can help. Emotional control is serious because it determines how you navigate life. Those who master it don't just survive challenges, they rise above them. And those who fail to control their emotions will always be at their mercy. The choice is yours. Will you be the master of your emotions, or will they be the master of you? Number 2, cultivating emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the key to understanding and managing your emotions effectively. It allows you to stay calm under pressure, build meaningful relationships, and make better decisions. Instead of suppressing emotions or reacting impulsively, emotionally intelligent people recognize their feelings and channel them in a way that benefits them. The good news is that emotional intelligence isn't something you're born with. It's a skill you can develop and strengthen over time. The first step in building emotional intelligence is self-awareness. This means understanding your emotions, what triggers them, and how they affect your behavior. Have you ever noticed how certain situations make you react strongly? Maybe you get irritated when someone interrupts you or feel anxious before public speaking. These emotional triggers often come from past experiences or deeply held beliefs. By identifying them, you gain control over your reactions instead of letting emotions dictate your behavior. Once you recognize your triggers, the next step is self-regulation. This means pausing before reacting emotionally. Many people let emotions control their actions, whether it's lashing out in anger, shutting down in sadness, or making rash decisions in the heat of the moment. But self-regulation allows you to pause, take a breath, and respond thoughtfully. Imagine getting a rude email from a coworker. Instead of immediately firing back an angry response, you take a moment to process your feelings, calm yourself, and reply in a professional, composed manner. This small habit can help you avoid unnecessary conflicts and misunderstandings. Another important aspect of emotional intelligence is motivation. People with high emotional intelligence use emotions as fuel for growth rather than allowing them to hold them back. When faced with failure or setbacks, they don't dwell on negativity. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," they ask, "How can I improve?" This shift in mindset turns obstacles into opportunities, allowing them to stay focused and keep moving forward. Beyond managing your own emotions, emotional intelligence also involves understanding and connecting with others. This is where empathy comes in. Have you ever met someone who seems to understand exactly how you feel without you even saying much? That's because they have high emotional intelligence. Empathy allows you to put yourself in someone else's shoes, making it easier to build trust and prevent misunderstandings. When you stop taking things personally and instead try to understand the emotions behind other people's actions, your relationships improve significantly. Another key skill is social awareness and communication. Emotionally intelligent people read between the lines in conversations. They pay attention not just to words, but also to tone, body language, and emotions. This helps them handle difficult situations with ease. Whether it's resolving a disagreement, negotiating a deal, or supporting a friend in distress. Imagine being in an argument. Someone with low emotional intelligence might escalate the situation, while someone with high EQ will de-escalate it. Listen actively and find a resolution. Now that you understand what emotional intelligence is, let's explore practical ways to improve it. One simple but powerful method is the name it to tame it technique. Research shows that when you label your emotions, they lose their intensity. Instead of saying, "I'm so mad," try saying, "I feel frustrated because my expectations weren't met." This helps your brain process emotions rationally instead of letting them take over. Another effective technique is mindful breathing. When emotions start to overwhelm you, your breathing naturally becomes shallow and fast. By slowing down your breath, you signal to your brain that you are in control. A simple exercise: inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds. Repeat this until your emotions settle. This is especially useful in moments of stress, anger, or anxiety. Journaling is another great way to process emotions logically rather than emotionally. Writing down your thoughts helps clear your mind and put things into perspective. If something is bothering you, writing it down allows you to step back and see it more objectively. It also helps track emotional patterns, making it easier to identify what triggers you and how to handle those situations better in the future. To improve emotional intelligence in relationships, practice active listening. Most people listen just to respond, not to understand. The next time you have a conversation, fully focus on the other person. Observe their body language, tone, and emotions without interrupting or jumping in with your opinion. When people feel truly heard, it strengthens trust and connection. Another essential skill is emotional detachment. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means not letting other people's emotions dictate yours. If someone is rude to you, it's likely a reflection of their own struggles, not yours. Instead of reacting emotionally, take a step back and choose your response logically. The ability to remain calm and collected in stressful situations is what sets emotionally intelligent individuals apart. Finally, reframing negativity is a crucial skill. The way you talk to yourself affects your emotions and actions. When faced with setbacks, instead of saying, "This is terrible," try saying, "This is a challenge and I'll find a way to overcome it." The words you use shape your emotions, and your emotions shape your reality. By shifting your mindset, you can handle stress, failure, and difficult situations with greater ease. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, regulate, and use emotions effectively. Self-awareness helps you recognize emotional triggers. Self-regulation prevents impulsive reactions. Motivation keeps you resilient. Empathy strengthens relationships. And social skills improve communication. By practicing mindfulness, journaling, active listening, and emotional detachment, you can train yourself to control your emotions rather than being controlled by them. The more you develop these skills, the more emotionally balanced, confident, and successful you will become. Number 3. Take action, master your emotional triggers. Understanding emotional intelligence is one thing, but taking action to master your emotional triggers is what separates those who control their emotions from those controlled by them. Emotional triggers are the events, words, or experiences that set off a strong emotional reaction, whether it's anger, sadness, frustration, or anxiety. If you don't recognize your triggers and learn how to manage them, you will always feel like a victim of your emotions. But when you identify and take control of them, you gain power over your emotional responses, leading to better decision-making, healthier relationships, and a more stable state of mind. The first step to emotional mastery is identifying your personal triggers. Think about the last few times you had a strong emotional reaction. What happened just before that? Was it criticism? Feeling ignored? Losing control over a situation? Triggers are often rooted in past experiences, childhood conditioning, or deeply held insecurities. For example, if you were often criticized growing up, even constructive feedback in adulthood may feel like an attack. If you've experienced betrayal, small signs of dishonesty in people may trigger an outsized reaction. These triggers operate in the background of your mind, influencing your behavior without you even realizing it. That's why self-awareness is key. The moment you recognize what triggers you, you can begin working on how to manage those triggers effectively. The second step is changing your automatic response to triggers. Most people react to their triggers without thinking. If someone cuts them off in traffic, they instantly get angry. If they receive a rude comment, they snap back. But reacting impulsively only reinforces emotional instability. Instead, train yourself to pause before reacting. When you feel a strong emotion rise, take a deep breath, count to 5, and ask yourself, is my reaction helping or hurting me? This small habit, learning to pause, creates a space between your emotion and your response. That space is where self-control is built. A powerful technique for managing emotional triggers is cognitive reframing. This means changing the way you interpret events to shift your emotional response. Let's say someone criticizes your work. Instead of thinking, they don't respect me, I'm not good enough, reframe it as, this feedback can help me improve. The situation remains the same, but the way you view it changes, leading to a completely different emotional reaction. Another example, if a friend cancels plans, instead of feeling rejected, reframe it as, maybe they had a rough day, it's not personal. Reframing allows you to take control of your emotional narrative rather than letting negativity consume you. In addition to reframing, another essential practice is emotional distancing. When a trigger arises, Imagine yourself stepping out of the situation and looking at it as an outsider. Ask yourself, if I were advising a friend in this situation, how would I tell them to react? This technique helps you detach from the emotional intensity of the moment, allowing you to respond with logic rather than impulse. The more you practice emotional distancing, the easier it becomes to stay calm in difficult situations. Daily habits play a crucial role in emotional control. Just like physical fitness, emotional fitness requires daily training. One of the best habits you can build is emotional journaling. Every evening, take 5 minutes to write down any emotional reactions you had during the day and analyze them. What triggered you? How did you respond? Could you have handled it better? Over time, this habit helps you recognize patterns in your emotional responses, making it easier to adjust your reactions in the future. Another essential habit is mindful breathing. The moment you feel triggered, focus on slowing down your breath. A simple technique is box breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold again for 4 seconds. This slows your heart rate and sends a signal to your brain that you are in control. When practiced consistently, mindful breathing reduces emotional reactivity and increases your ability to stay calm under pressure. Setting emotional boundaries is another key factor in mastering your triggers. If certain people, environments, or conversations consistently trigger negative emotions, you need to establish boundaries to protect your emotional health. This might mean limiting your interactions with toxic individuals, avoiding unnecessary conflicts, or learning to say no when needed. Boundaries are not about avoiding life's challenges. They're about choosing which battles are worth your emotional energy. One of the most underrated skills in emotional mastery is learning to embrace discomfort. Most people try to avoid negative emotions at all costs, but true growth comes from leaning into discomfort rather than running from it. For example, if you fear rejection, instead of avoiding situations where rejection is possible, put yourself in them deliberately. The more you face discomfort, the less power it has over you. If criticism triggers you, expose yourself to constructive criticism more often. If failure paralyzes you, start seeing small failures as learning experiences rather than defeats. Over time, this builds emotional resilience, making you less reactive and more adaptable. Additionally, practicing gratitude is a powerful way to reduce emotional triggers. When you shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right, your mind becomes less sensitive to negativity. A simple habit every morning: write down 3 things you're grateful for. This rewires your brain to focus on positive emotions rather than dwelling on triggers. Mastering emotional triggers is not about eliminating emotions, it's about taking ownership of them. It's about recognizing that while you can't control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. When you learn to pause before reacting, reframe negative situations, set healthy boundaries, and embrace discomfort, you become emotionally bulletproof. The world no longer dictates how you feel. You dictate how you experience the world. Imagine a life where no trigger controls you, where criticism doesn't you, stress doesn't overwhelm you, and rejection doesn't define you. That level of emotional mastery is possible, but it requires consistent practice. Start small. The next time you feel an emotional trigger arise, pause, breathe, reframe, respond with intention. Each time you do this, you take one step closer to mastering your emotions. And when you master your emotions, you master your life. Number 4, strengthen your emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks, handle stress effectively, and stay composed under pressure. It's what allows some people to face adversity and grow stronger, while others crumble under the weight of their emotions. Life will never be free of challenges. There will always be disappointments, failures, conflicts, and unexpected hardships. The difference between those who break and those who thrive is emotional resilience. Resilience doesn't mean ignoring emotions or pretending to be unaffected by pain. It means facing difficulties with strength and adaptability. It means allowing yourself to feel emotions, but not letting them consume you. People with strong emotional resilience experience the same hardships as everyone else. The difference is they don't stay stuck in negativity. They process their emotions, learn from their experiences, and move forward. One of the most critical aspects of emotional resilience is mental toughness. The ability to push through difficulties, endure discomfort, and maintain focus even when things get tough. A powerful mindset shift is the idea that struggles are not obstacles, they are training. Every difficult experience you face is making you stronger. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" This perspective transforms adversity into an opportunity for growth. A key part of emotional resilience is learning how to handle life's winters. Everyone goes through emotional winters, times of loss, rejection, failure, or uncertainty. Winters can feel endless, but they are temporary. The key to surviving them is to prepare for them before they arrive. Just like we prepare for cold weather by wearing layers, we must prepare for emotional winters by building coping mechanisms and mental strength before tough times hit. One way to do this is by developing a personal resilience routine. This could include practices like meditation, journaling, exercise, or engaging in hobbies that help you reset your emotions. Think of resilience like a muscle. It grows stronger when you train it consistently. When you regularly challenge yourself mentally and emotionally, you develop the strength to handle anything life throws at you. Another essential skill for emotional resilience is managing emotional energy. Just like physical energy, emotional energy is limited. If you spend too much time dwelling on negativity, overthinking, or engaging in draining relationships, you deplete your emotional reserves. Protect your energy by choosing where to invest your emotions. If a situation or person is constantly draining you without adding value, set boundaries. Learn to say no to unnecessary drama, negativity, and toxicity. Resilient people also practice emotional endurance. This means accepting that difficult emotions, whether it's grief, frustration, or disappointment, are temporary. Instead of trying to escape them, they sit with them, process them, and allow them to pass. A useful technique for handling intense emotions is the 3-day rule. When something painful happens, give yourself 3 days to feel it fully. Let yourself be sad, angry, or frustrated. But on day 4, shift your focus to moving forward. This prevents you from staying trapped in emotional suffering for too long. Another critical factor in emotional resilience is self-discipline. Often our emotions tempt us to act in ways that don't serve us. Maybe you feel unmotivated, so you procrastinate. Maybe you're frustrated, so you lash out. But emotional resilience means doing what's necessary, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline builds resilience because it teaches you that you are in control of your actions, not your emotions. The strongest people don't rely on motivation. They rely on habits and discipline to push through challenges. A practical way to strengthen resilience is by exposing yourself to controlled discomfort. Resilient people don't avoid challenges, they seek them out in small ways so that they can handle bigger obstacles when they arise. This could mean taking cold showers to build mental toughness, engaging in difficult conversations instead of avoiding them, or challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone regularly. The more you train yourself to handle discomfort, the less afraid you are of emotional pain. One of the most underrated aspects of resilience is building a strong support system. No one is meant to handle life's struggles alone. Surrounding yourself with people who uplift and encourage you is essential for emotional stability. But resilience also means learning to rely on yourself. While support is important, true resilience comes from knowing that, no matter what, you can handle life's challenges on your own if necessary. Resilient people also manage their self-talk. The way you speak to yourself determines how you experience challenges. If your inner voice constantly says, "I can't handle this," your brain will believe it. But if you train your mind to say, "I am strong enough to get through this," you build resilience. One simple but powerful habit is replacing negative self-talk with neutral or positive statements. Instead of saying, "This is too hard," say, "This is difficult, but I am capable." Instead of thinking, "I'll never recover from this," tell yourself, "I have survived difficult things before, and I will survive this too." Your words shape your emotions, and your emotions shape your reality. Another powerful resilience-building practice is reflecting on past victories. When you're going through a tough time, remind yourself of other challenges you've faced and overcome. If you survived heartbreak, loss, failure, or setbacks before, you can do it again. Keeping a resilience journal, where you write down past struggles and how you overcame them, can be a great way to reinforce your inner strength. Lastly, resilient people embrace change rather than resisting it. Life is unpredictable, and the only constant is change. The more you fight against reality, the more suffering you create for yourself. Instead, develop the mindset that change is a part of life, and every transition is an opportunity for growth. When things don't go as planned, don't waste energy resisting. Focus on adapting. The most resilient people accept, adjust, and move forward. At the core of emotional resilience is the understanding that pain is temporary, emotions are fleeting, and you are always stronger than you think. Life will test you. There will be losses, rejections, failures, and hardships. But resilience is about realizing that no storm lasts forever, and no challenge is greater than your ability to overcome it. When you strengthen your emotional resilience, you gain the power to stay calm in chaos, rise after every fall, and move forward with unwavering confidence, no matter what life throws your way. Number 5. Leveraging emotions for success. Emotions are often seen as obstacles, something to be controlled or suppressed. But what if emotions were not the enemy? What if, instead of fighting your emotions, you could harness them as a source of power? The truth is, emotions are fuel. They can either burn you out or propel you forward, depending on how you use them. Highly successful people don't eliminate emotions. They leverage them strategically to stay motivated, build relationships, and push past obstacles. The key to mastering emotions isn't suppressing them, it's learning how to turn them into an unstoppable force for success. One of the most important ways to leverage emotions is to channel them into action. Think about the last time you felt a strong emotion, whether it was frustration, excitement, or disappointment. What did you do with it? Most people let emotions consume them or drive them to act impulsively. But successful people use emotions as motivation. Instead of getting discouraged by failure, they channel frustration into determination. Instead of letting fear stop them, they turn it into courage. When they feel anger, they don't lash out. They use it to fuel discipline and focus. The first step in leveraging emotions is understanding the power of emotional energy. Emotions are like fuel in a car. If you use them wisely, they can take you far. If you let them control you, they can crash your engine. Every emotion you feel, even negative ones, can be turned into something productive. Anger can be turned into focus. Fear can be turned into preparation. Frustration can be turned into improvement. But if you let emotions control you instead of using them, they become destructive. The key is to ask yourself in every emotional moment, how can I use this feeling to my advantage? One of the best examples of leveraging emotions is seen in athletes. A top athlete doesn't get rid of emotions. They use them to perform at their highest level. Before a big game, they feel nervous. But instead of letting that nervousness paralyze them, they use it to sharpen their focus. They feel pressure, but instead of crumbling under it, they turn it into energy. The same principle applies in business, relationships, and personal growth. If you feel doubt, instead of letting it stop you, use it as a sign to prepare better. If you feel unmotivated, instead of waiting for inspiration, use discipline to push through. Another key aspect of leveraging emotions is emotional influence, using controlled emotions to inspire and lead others. Whether you're a leader, a parent, a teacher, or a business owner, your emotions affect the people around you. The way you express emotions can either motivate people or push them away. The best leaders are those who control their emotions in high-pressure situations. They don't panic when things go wrong. They don't lash out when they're frustrated. Instead, they use emotional intelligence to project calmness, confidence, and inspiration. People follow those who remain composed under pressure, not those who react emotionally to every situation. One of the greatest skills in leveraging emotions is understanding the power of nonverbal emotional communication. Your emotions are constantly being communicated through your body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice. If you're trying to inspire someone but your body language is tense, they'll feel the disconnect. If you want to appear confident but your voice is shaky, your words won't have the same impact. Learning to align your emotional expression with your message is a changer. Pay attention to how successful speakers and leaders use their tone, eye contact, and posture to convey emotions that engage and persuade people. Another essential part of emotional leverage is managing emotional energy over time. Just like physical energy, emotional energy needs to be protected and recharged. If you're constantly stressed, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained, you won't be able to perform at your best. That's why successful people take emotional recovery seriously. They manage their energy by taking breaks, surrounding themselves with positive influences, and setting emotional boundaries. They don't waste emotional energy on things that don't matter. They focus on what truly drives them forward. A powerful habit to build emotional leverage is reframing setbacks as learning experiences. The most successful people in history failed more times than they succeeded. But what made them different is that they didn't see failure as a reason to stop. They saw it as feedback for improvement. Instead of saying, "I failed, so I must not be good enough," they say, "This failure is teaching me something valuable." This mindset prevents emotions like disappointment and frustration from turning into discouragement. One of the greatest emotional leverage tools is gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already working in your life. When you practice gratitude, even in difficult times, it keeps you emotionally balanced and prevents negativity from taking over. A simple yet powerful practice is writing down 3 things you're grateful for every morning. This small habit rewires your brain to focus on positive emotions, making it easier to stay motivated and resilient. At the core of leveraging emotions for success is the ability to stay emotionally composed in critical moments. There will be times when life challenges you, when things don't go as planned, when stress is high. The way you handle these moments determines whether you rise or fall. If you let your emotions take control, you'll make decisions based on impulse rather than strategy. But if you pause, breathe, and respond intentionally, you'll gain the upper hand in any situation. Imagine being able to use every emotion to your advantage, to turn fear into fuel, frustration into focus, and disappointment into drive. Imagine staying calm under pressure, inspiring others with your emotional composure, and moving through challenges with confidence. That level of emotional mastery is possible. It's not about eliminating emotions, but learning to use them as tools for success. The greatest leaders, entrepreneurs, and athletes all have one thing in common. They don't just feel emotions, they use them to win. You have the same ability. The next time you feel a strong emotion, don't ask, "Why do I feel this way?" Instead, ask, "How can I use this feeling to my advantage?" When you make this shift, emotions stop being something you need to fight against, and instead become your most powerful asset. Number 6, avoiding emotional traps. Emotions, when controlled, can be a powerful tool, but when left unchecked, they can lead to self-destruction, poor decisions, and unnecessary suffering. One of the biggest challenges in emotional mastery is avoiding emotional traps, mental and emotional patterns that keep you stuck in cycles of negativity, overreaction, or emotional dependency. These traps create unnecessary stress, damage relationships, and prevent you from reaching your full potential. If you want to master your emotions, you must first recognize and break free from these common emotional pitfalls. One of the most dangerous emotional traps is emotional suppression, the habit of bottling up emotions rather than dealing with them. Many people believe that controlling emotions means ignoring them, pushing them aside, or pretending they don't exist. But emotions that are suppressed don't disappear. They build up like pressure in a bottle and eventually explode in unhealthy ways. Unexpressed anger turns into resentment, unacknowledged sadness turns into depression, and buried stress manifests as physical illness. True emotional control isn't about ignoring emotions. It's about processing them in a healthy way so they don't control you later. Another common emotional trap is toxic positivity. This is the belief that you should always be happy, always positive, and never acknowledge negative emotions. While optimism is important, forcing yourself to be positive all the time is unrealistic and harmful. Life comes with struggles, disappointments, and pain. Ignoring these realities doesn't make you stronger. It makes you disconnected from your emotions. People who force positivity often end up feeling worse because they're denying their true feelings instead of addressing them. The key is to balance optimism with emotional honesty. It's okay to feel sad, frustrated, or disappointed. What matters is how you respond to those emotions. One of the most subtle but damaging emotional traps is emotional dependency, relying on others to regulate your emotions instead of taking responsibility for them. This happens when people seek constant validation, approval, or reassurance from others to feel okay. If someone doesn't compliment them, they feel insecure. If someone disagrees with them, they feel attacked. If a relationship ends, they feel like their world is falling apart. Emotional dependency gives power over your emotions to external circumstances, making you vulnerable to constant mood swings. True emotional control means learning to validate yourself instead of seeking it from others. It means knowing your worth even when no one is clapping for you. Another emotional trap is overreacting to small things. Have you ever seen someone explode over a minor inconvenience? Maybe a small mistake ruined their entire day, or a negative comment made them spiral into anger or self-doubt. When emotions aren't managed, they become exaggerated, making minor problems feel like major crises. The key to avoiding this trap is perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter a year from now? If the answer is no, it's not worth an extreme emotional reaction. Train yourself to differentiate between problems that require a strong response and ones that don't. One of the most common emotional traps is fear-based decision-making. Fear is a natural emotion, but when it dictates your choices, it keeps you trapped in a cycle of playing small. People avoid opportunities because they fear failure, avoid relationships because they fear rejection, or avoid speaking up because they fear judgment. But letting fear control your decisions means living a life of limitation. Instead of letting fear dictate your actions, reframe it. Fear is simply a sign that you're stepping outside your comfort zone. Instead of running from fear, use it as a signal to move forward. Another emotional pitfall is dwelling on the past. Regret, guilt, and resentment are powerful emotions that keep people stuck. Some replay past mistakes over and over, punishing themselves for things they can't change. Others hold on to resentment, keeping emotional wounds fresh by refusing to let go of past hurts. But the past is a place to learn from, not a place to live in. If you constantly relive old pain, you're giving power to something that no longer exists. The only way to move forward is to release the past, forgive yourself, and focus on the present. One of the easiest emotional traps to fall into is worrying about things you can't control. Many people waste emotional energy stressing over things they have no power over. Other people's opinions, the future, or external circumstances. Worrying doesn't change the outcome, but it does drain your energy and mental peace. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, train yourself to focus on what you can control: your actions, mindset, and responses. When you shift your focus, you take back your emotional power. Another emotional trap is seeking revenge or holding grudges. When someone wrongs us, the natural reaction is to want justice, but holding on to resentment only hurts you. It keeps you emotionally tied to a negative experience. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means freeing yourself from the emotional burden of it. The best way to get revenge is not by seeking payback, but by healing, growing, and succeeding in spite of what happened. One of the biggest emotional pitfalls is self-sabotage. Sometimes the biggest enemy to emotional stability is not the world around you, it's your own mind. People sabotage themselves by engaging in negative self-talk, doubting their abilities, or procrastinating out of fear. Self-sabotage often comes from an unconscious belief that you don't deserve success or happiness. The only way to break this pattern is by changing the way you talk to yourself. Speak to yourself the way you would to someone you love. Replace self-doubt with self-encouragement. The more you build yourself up, the less you will get in your own way. Avoiding emotional traps requires awareness and intentionality. The more you recognize these patterns, the easier it becomes to break free from them. Emotional mastery isn't about never feeling negative emotions. It's about learning to navigate them with wisdom. Instead of suppressing emotions, acknowledge and process them. Instead of relying on others for emotional stability, build inner strength. Instead of overreacting, step back and gain perspective. Instead of dwelling on the past, focus on what's ahead. Imagine living a life where you are no longer controlled by emotional traps, where you don't overreact to small things, where fear doesn't hold you back, where you don't need external validation to feel worthy. That life is possible, but it requires choosing emotional discipline over emotional chaos. The next time you catch yourself falling into an emotional trap, pause, take a deep breath. Remind yourself, I control my emotions. My emotions do not control me. When you master this, you unlock a level of inner freedom that few people ever achieve. Number 7. Communicating with emotional intelligence. One of the greatest indicators of emotional control is how you communicate. Every day you interact with people, at work, at home, in social situations. The way you express yourself and respond to others' emotions determines the quality of your relationships, your influence, and your overall ability to navigate life effectively. People with high emotional intelligence don't just control their own emotions, they understand and manage the emotions of others. They communicate in ways that de-escalate conflict, build trust, and create meaningful connections. The ability to communicate with emotional intelligence is a skill that sets successful individuals apart. The first key to emotionally intelligent communication is self-awareness. Before you speak, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What message am I trying to send? Many people communicate based on impulse rather than intention. If they're angry, they lash out. If they're frustrated, they complain. If they're nervous, they shut down. But emotionally intelligent individuals pause before they speak. They make sure their words reflect their true intentions rather than temporary emotions. This prevents unnecessary conflicts and misunderstandings. Another major factor in effective communication is tone and body language. Studies show that only 7% of communication is based on words, while 38% comes from tone of voice and 55% from body language. This means that how you say something is often more important than what you say. If you want to communicate with emotional intelligence, you must be aware of your nonverbal signals. Are you crossing your arms in a defensive posture? Are you speaking in a harsh tone without realizing it? Are your facial expressions contradicting your words? The more aware you are of your tone and body language, the more effectively you can control the emotional impact of your communication. Active listening is another essential part of emotionally intelligent communication. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. They're already forming their reply while the other person is still speaking. This creates surface-level conversations with no real connection. Emotionally intelligent individuals practice deep, active listening. They focus entirely on the speaker, absorb the message, and respond thoughtfully. This makes the other person feel valued and heard, strengthening the relationship. A simple way to practice active listening is by using reflective statements. Instead of immediately responding with your opinion, reflect back what the other person is saying. For example, if someone says, "I'm really frustrated with my job," an emotionally intelligent response would be, "It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed. What's been the most frustrating part?" This shows empathy and encourages deeper conversation. One of the biggest mistakes people make in communication is letting emotions dictate their response. In arguments, for example, emotions can easily take over, leading to defensive, aggressive, or passive-aggressive behavior. The key to handling conflicts with emotional intelligence is the pause, process, respond method. When you feel triggered in a conversation, pause before reacting. Take a deep breath. Allow your emotions to settle and process what was actually said rather than assuming intent. Then respond thoughtfully rather than emotionally. A calm, well-thought-out response is far more effective than an emotional outburst. Another critical skill in emotionally intelligent communication is handling criticism with composure. No one enjoys criticism, but emotionally mature individuals don't take it personally. Instead of reacting defensively, they see criticism as feedback for growth. The next time you receive criticism, pause and ask yourself, is there truth in this feedback? What can I learn from it? Even if the criticism is unfair, responding calmly shows self-control and emotional strength. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools in communication. Understanding and validating others' emotions creates trust and strengthens relationships. But true empathy is not just about understanding emotions. It's about managing them effectively. Emotionally intelligent people adjust their communication style based on the emotions of the person they're speaking to. If someone is upset, they respond with calmness. If someone is excited, they match their energy. If someone is confused, they take extra time to explain. This ability to read the room and adapt communication accordingly is what makes leaders, influencers, and great communicators stand out. One of the hardest but most valuable communication skills is knowing when to stay silent. Not every situation requires a response. Sometimes the best way to maintain emotional control is to simply not engage. If someone is being aggressive, dismissive, or irrational, an emotionally intelligent person doesn't get pulled into their chaos. They understand that engaging in unnecessary arguments is a waste of emotional energy. Knowing when to walk away is just as important as knowing what to say. Another essential part of emotionally intelligent communication is forgiveness. Holding on to resentment or grudges only harms you, not the other person. Emotionally intelligent individuals know how to let go of past conflicts and move forward. They don't allow unresolved emotions to linger and poison their relationships. If someone has wronged them, they express their feelings, set boundaries if necessary, and release the emotional burden rather than carrying it. Building emotional intelligence in communication also requires assertiveness. Many people struggle with either being too passive or too aggressive. The balance between these extremes is assertive communication, expressing yourself honestly while respecting the other person's feelings. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," an assertive person would say, "I feel unheard when I'm interrupted. Can we try to give each other space to speak?" Assertiveness creates clarity, reduces misunderstandings, and strengthens relationships. Lastly, emotionally intelligent communication is about influence, not manipulation. Some people try to control others by using guilt, anger, or passive aggression. But true influence comes from authenticity, confidence, and emotional stability. People naturally respect and follow those who communicate with calmness, clarity, and emotional balance. Imagine a life where your words always reflect thoughtfulness rather than impulse, where you handle conflicts with grace rather than anger, where people trust and respect you because of the way you communicate. That level of emotional intelligence in communication is possible. It's a skill that can be developed with practice. The next time you find yourself in a difficult conversation, pause. Be aware of your tone, your words, and your emotions. Listen deeply. Respond intentionally. And most importantly, communicate not just to be heard, but to truly connect. When you master the art of emotionally intelligent communication, you not only improve your relationships, you elevate every area of your life. Number 8, the ultimate emotional mastery plan. Emotional control isn't something you achieve overnight. It's a lifelong commitment to understanding yourself, managing your reactions, and continuously improving your emotional intelligence. To truly master your emotions, you need a structured plan, a system that helps you stay in control, no matter what challenges life throws at you. Without a plan, emotions can become unpredictable and overwhelming. But with a solid strategy, you can handle stress, regulate your feelings, and make decisions with clarity and composure. Emotional mastery isn't about eliminating emotions. It's about learning to manage them effectively. The first step in the ultimate emotional mastery plan is developing self-awareness. If you don't understand your emotions, you can't control them. Start by tracking your emotional patterns. Keep a journal where you write down what triggers strong emotions. whether it's frustration, anger, fear, or sadness. Notice the common patterns. Do you get easily irritated when you're hungry? Do you become anxious before public speaking? Do certain people or situations consistently trigger negative emotions? When you become aware of your emotional triggers, you can start working on responding to them differently. Once you've identified your triggers, the next step is creating a response strategy. Emotional control is not about reacting instinctively. It's about responding with intention. When faced with a strong emotion, use the pause, process, respond method. First, pause. Take a few deep breaths before saying or doing anything. Then, process. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Is my emotional reaction justified, or am I overreacting? Finally, respond. Choose a response that aligns with your values and goals rather than reacting impulsively. With practice, this technique will become second nature, allowing you to handle emotional situations with clarity and control. Another powerful tool in your emotional mastery plan is emotional reframing. Your emotions are directly influenced by the way you interpret events. If you constantly see setbacks as failures, you'll feel discouraged. But if you see them as opportunities for growth, you'll feel empowered. The key is to reframe negative situations into positive ones. Instead of saying, "This is a disaster," say, "This is a challenge, and I will learn from it." Instead of thinking, "I'll never succeed," tell yourself, "Every failure brings me one step closer to success." By changing the way you perceive challenges, you automatically change the emotions you associate with them. A critical part of emotional mastery is emotional endurance. Just like physical endurance allows you to push through fatigue, emotional endurance helps you push through emotional discomfort. Life will test you. There will be disappointments, losses, failures, and rejections. But emotionally strong people don't break under pressure. They know that pain is temporary, and they push forward despite the discomfort. To build emotional endurance, practice leaning into discomfort rather than avoiding it. If you fear rejection, put yourself in situations where you might get rejected. Apply for jobs, introduce yourself to new people, take risks. The more you expose yourself to emotional discomfort, the stronger you become. Another essential strategy for emotional control is setting emotional boundaries. Many people struggle with emotional instability because they allow others to dictate their emotional state. If someone is rude to them, they become instantly upset. If someone doesn't approve of their choices, they feel insecure. But true emotional mastery means learning to separate your emotions from external influences. You are not responsible for how others treat you, but you are responsible for how you react. Set boundaries by refusing to let other people's negativity, opinions, or moods affect your emotional state. If someone is toxic, limit your interactions with them. If social media triggers anxiety, reduce your screen time. Protect your emotional well-being by controlling what you expose yourself to. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional mastery is daily emotional resets. Just like your phone needs to recharge, your emotions need a reset to maintain balance. Every day, take time to release negative emotions and replenish positive ones. This could be through meditation, exercise, journaling, or simply to walk. By resetting your emotions daily, you prevent stress from building up and overwhelming you. A simple habit is to start and end your day with gratitude. Before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. When you wake up, set an intention for how you want to feel that day. Small habits like this create long-term emotional stability. Another crucial part of the ultimate emotional mastery plan is learning to control your internal dialogue. Your mind is constantly talking to you, either building you up or tearing you down. Negative self-talk fuels anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional instability. But when you take control of your thoughts, you take control of your emotions. Instead of letting your mind spiral into worst-case scenarios, interrupt negative thoughts with positive affirmations. If your mind says, "I can't do this," respond with, "I can handle anything that comes my way." If your inner voice says, "I'm not good enough," counter it with, "I am constantly improving and growing." Your emotions follow your thoughts, so choose thoughts that empower you rather than weaken you. A major component of emotional mastery is practicing emotional neutrality. Not every situation requires an emotional reaction. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is remain neutral. If someone insults you, instead of reacting with anger, stay calm. If something goes wrong, instead of panicking, analyze the situation logically. Emotionally intelligent people don't let every little thing affect them. They pick their battles wisely and refuse to waste energy on things that don't matter in the long run. Finally, one of the most important elements of emotional mastery is commitment to lifelong learning. Emotional control is not a destination, it's a journey. There will always be new challenges, triggers, and situations that test your emotional strength. The key is to keep improving. Read books on emotional intelligence. Study successful people who have mastered emotional control, and continuously refine your strategies. Growth never stops, and neither does emotional mastery. Imagine a life where you always remain calm under pressure, where you handle every situation with clarity, confidence, and composure, where your emotions work for you rather than against you. This level of control is possible, but it requires commitment, practice, and patience. Start by implementing 1 or 2 strategies from this plan, and gradually build upon them. Over time, you'll develop unshakable emotional strength. The next time life challenges you, remember your emotions are your responsibility. You have the power to control them, and with the right strategies, you can master them for life. Emotional mastery is not about eliminating emotions. It's about understanding, managing, and using them to your advantage. Throughout this journey, we've explored the power of emotional intelligence, the dangers of unchecked emotions, and the strategies needed to take full control of your feelings. The truth is, your emotions shape your reality. They influence your decisions, your relationships, and ultimately your success in life. Imagine living a life where you are no longer a prisoner of your emotions, where anger no longer leads to regretful words, where fear no longer holds you back from opportunities, and where stress no longer consumes your peace. That life is possible, but only if you commit to mastering your emotions. Emotional control isn't something you practice once and perfect. It's a lifelong journey. There will always be challenges, triggers, and situations that test you. But every time you choose response over reaction, calmness over chaos, and perspective over impulse, you strengthen your emotional resilience. The key to emotional mastery is awareness, discipline, and intentional action. Start by recognizing your emotional triggers, practicing self-regulation, and using emotions as a source of strength rather than weakness. Set boundaries to protect your emotional energy, reframe setbacks as opportunities for growth, and communicate with emotional intelligence. The more you practice these habits, the more control you will have over your emotional state. Today you have a choice. You can continue to let emotions control you, or you can take control and shape your future with clarity and confidence. The difference between a person who thrives and one who struggles isn't talent, intelligence, or luck. It's emotional discipline. When you master your emotions, you master your life. So the next time emotions rise, pause, process, and respond. Remember, you are in control. Your emotions do not define you. Your choices do. Now go out and build the strongest, most resilient version of yourself. Your future depends on